Greetings. Welcome to my weekend market recap 4th June 2022. I am Sagar Nandi, retired IT professional, swing trading stocks using the Q systems and techniques that I developed. You may contact me using my email ID tradingprofitably@gmail.com. I regularly share live market and stock analysis on my website sagarnandi.com, YouTube channel Trading Profitably, and Twitter handle Sagar Nandi. You are most welcome to make use of them. Disclaimer: this demonstration is for educational purposes only. I am not an investment advisor. It is not a trade recommendation. Trading involves risk. You and only you are solely responsible for the outcome of your trades. I may mention about options trading from time to time. You may refer to the characteristics and risks of standardized options document from Options Clearing Corporation to decide if option trading is suitable for you. I'll describe some option trades that I took last week in today's session. I use the Q systems that run on Metastock, and one of the components, the technical analysis part, runs on TradeStation as well. That was the last slide. Let's now continue with the live systems. First, a look at the global markets starting with Australian index, all ordinaries. It is continuing to move inside a range both in weekly and daily, created by trendline support and resistance. On a shorter time frame, it has a trendline support, and now we can see the flow indicator with a tick mark below the candle. Below the candle for bullish flow and above the candle for bearish flow. This is different from flow entry setup. The entry setup is shown in the panel at the top, and here we can see the flow color. When we look at the shorter time frame, it is going up with higher low and higher high, pulled back to trendline support, and then flow color turned bullish. We have a go with flow or flow trend following long trade setup in the daily chart also. However, the weekly is not meeting the checklist conditions to confirm a flow trend following long setup. Though the weekly is not cyan yet, looking at the daily indicators, if I have to take a trade, I will take a long trade in all ordinaries now. Next, let's look at the China Market Index CSI 300. CSI 300 has 3 successive weeks of bullish backdrop, and this week's shape is also bullish. If you remember my earlier market recaps, then you would know that when we had the bullish headwind and then the false downside breakout, since then I suggested preferring long trades than short trades in the China market. That is coming true as we see this week's candle shape and color, both are bullish. In the daily, somewhat similar to the Australian market, we have a trendline support. Price came to there and bounced up from that support, and we had a bullish flow at this point. After that, price is going up. Friday's candle color and shape both are bullish. Here also, if I had to take a trade, I would take a bullish trade, not a bearish trade. Next, Japan's Topix Index. Topix is moving inside a range created by trendline resistance and support both in daily and weekly. Here price is closer to the resistance side, so I would not like to take any long trade. Instead, if price can come down from the trendline resistance in both daily and weekly, then I will favor taking a short trade. Next, India's Nifty 50 index. Nifty 50 bounced up in the weekly chart from the watermark support, and now a trendline support has also formed. This week's candle shape is bearish, though the color is bullish. That is giving a mixed signal. In the daily, we can see price came to the trend line and watermark support. After some sideways move, gapped up and now holding that gain. Friday's candle color is neutral, shape is bearish. However, if you look carefully, Friday's closing is almost at the same level as Thursday's closing. So we don't have any preferred trading direction in Nifty 50 right now. It may go either way, and based on where it is going, I like to take the trades in that direction. Indecisive for Nifty 50. And lastly, UK's FTSE index. In the last two webinars, I showed that FTSE index was the strongest among the global markets that we study, and it was stronger than USA market, of course. Now we see it is showing a pattern similar to Japan's Topix index. Both daily and weekly are near trendline resistances, and it is worse than Topix index because in case of Topix I mentioned that if it turns down from trendline resistance, I'd like to take shorts. Here for FTSE it has already turned down from the trendline resistance on Friday, and Friday's candle color turned bearish. We have a bear release signal. Earlier we had two bearish indecision at the top 2 days in a row. Looking at these bearish signals, I am quite sure that you could take some short trades in the UK market on Friday. That was a look at the global markets. Let's see how the global index is faring as a whole using the Q global index. Global index is similar somewhat to the India market. It came to the watermark support after some sidewise move, gapped up, and now holding the gain. Though it is holding the gain, it has displayed three bearish indecision at the top in last 4 days, and one of the days also had a bear release signal. Am I bearish looking at these indecisions and bear release signal? No, because there is a trendline support nearby. Unless the trendline support is broken, I will not turn bearish on the global market as a whole. Currently, I have no preferred trading direction on the global index. So globally, we have a mixed picture. Some of the markets I prefer taking long trades, some prefer taking short trades like UK, and some I am indecisive. Now let's look at the USA market. Before looking at the USA charts, let me start with the very useful sector industry stock 1 month to 1 day advanced decline breadth picture. Now we can see from 1 month to 2 days, all the periods are bullish. Friday was very bearish compared to how it was moving in last couple of days. Now the question to ask is that Friday's bearish red color picture, does it allow us to take short trades? And I will show that it does not. Instead, I am reading it in this way that we had an overall bullish run over last 10 days and maybe even somewhat beyond that. We had 1 day of weakness. Now next day, Monday, if it turns bullish, then we will be forming a dip in an otherwise uptrend, and I will like to go for long trades again. That is how I am reading this sector industry stock advanced decline plot. I am not reading it as a bearish signal based on Friday's weakness, and I'll explain why so. I tweeted a while ago a snapshot that I took from Q Edge as of market close on Friday, just after market close. And that shows some important information. It shows the sector performance and compares the real-time performance with 1 day prior performance, that is, looks at Friday's performance and compares that with Thursday's performance, real-time versus 1 day earlier. And what you see is that Friday, the red bars were mostly negative. Thursday's bars were mostly positive. And then you also see that though Friday was negative, it was smaller in size mostly than Thursday's up moves. So it was just a dip for 1 day that could not even negate the gain of Thursday. So I am for now thinking of it as a dip in an uptrend. We also see from the bucket analysis that it is clearly bullish. Almost 80% of S&P 1500 stocks are above mid-Bollinger Band. If you think of mid-Bollinger Band as a neutral area, then when 80% of the stocks are above mid-Bollinger Band, we have to say that the market is in an uptrend. It is in an uptrend. We can see that from the bar chart also, the bucket analysis bar chart. The green colored area is much more than the red colored area. It is bullish, but it is not overbought, because overbought will mean that the percentage of stocks in the uppermost bucket is hitting near 30 to 40%. It is far from that. Currently, it is only at 7.3%. So I am reading it as a bullish market and nowhere near overbought. Friday's dip is a dip in an uptrend. Now let's look at Q Edge. Go back to Q Edge live system and look at sector performance across different periods. Just now I showed that Friday's performance was weak, but that did not negate Thursday's up move. We can see that from the 2-day performance, that is Thursday, Friday combined, 2-day performance of sectors shows that 9 of the sectors are up, and the big up moves came in materials, infotech, industrials, healthcare, consumer discretionary. These are non-defensive sectors, and these sectors were weak for a long time. And now they are starting to gain momentum. You will find plenty of fundamentally very strong stocks in these sectors that are breaking out from low price levels, and I am targeting to buy them. I shared some of them publicly on my website. All my sharings are public. There is no fee involved for any of those ideas that I share. Anybody can access them. I shared some of them on my website and some on the Twitter page. If you look at longer term period, 5-day, 9 sectors are up, only 2 down. 10 days, all 11 sectors are up. 1 month, again 7 sectors are up. So this is also reinforcing what I mentioned earlier, that I am reading the Friday's dip as a dip in an uptrend. Overall, the sector is clearly in an uptrend. Now let's look at the market ETFs. I will use TradeStation for that, starting with SPY. Here we see the pattern that I saw in the global market as well. It went up after displaying the bullish headwind, after creating a false downside breakout, then gapped up and consolidating that gain. Thursday we had a bullish flow. Friday we had a bearish day, but it did not go below the range of last 1 week. So this week it moved inside a range after a gap up open on the first day. Weekly is also telling us to be bullish because the backdrop color is remaining cyan, and though it declined a little bit from the previous week, didn't even hit anywhere close to the half of the previous bullish candle. So both weekly and daily are showing bullishness. If the daily can break out of this range, then I think there will be plenty of buying opportunities in the constituent stocks. Let's see if this pattern is similar in other market ETFs. QQQ. Yes, backdrop bullish, declined a little bit, not even halfway to the previous week's candle. In daily, had series of bullish headwinds, gapped up from there and consolidating the gain. Dia, very similar picture, bullish backdrop, indecisive shape. In the daily, displayed the bullish headwind, moved rapidly up from there and now consolidating the gain. IWM, weekly is bullish, daily is also consolidating the gain after the up move. However, as I mentioned in the previous market recap also, there is a trend line resistance nearby, in fact several of them, so I will be cautious about buying IWM, at least using daily charts. I will wait for these trend line resistances to be broken one after another, and when and if IWM does that, along the way several small cap stocks will give breakout trades. Those may not have series of trendline resistances. They may give flow trade setup, that is trend following setup, or give breakout setup as well. So you may watch for that. All the 4 market ETFs are consolidating their gains, and the weekly daily together is telling me to prefer taking long trades rather than short trades. That is using the external view, market ETF view. Let's see if that view remains same when I look at Q market internals. USA market breadth total view, a look at the market's internals by calculating items looking at the two composites and the four major indices. After bearish exhaustion at the bottom, shown by heavy distribution count and Phoenix again at a low price level, it turned bullish because it showed accumulation count 4 and then accumulation count 6 again. Both of those candles had Eureka color, that is bulls were in control, and on Thursday we had another accumulation day with bullish Eureka color. On Friday we have one distribution count, but one distribution count is not significant enough to consider it to be bearish. The 3-month new high low, after hitting the oversold area, it is continuing to go up. Now it is in the upper half, that is bullish, but not overbought yet. It has not hit the upper extreme. So Q global market breadth total view is also telling me to prefer the bullish trading direction. Now let's look at the technical breadth using Q Finder. Balance between bulls and bears using technical signals. First weekly interval. We had a large percentage of bearish reversal. However, that came after very large percentage of bullish strength. Are they becoming bearish when taken together? To see that, we look at the absolute numbers and we see the absolute number of bearish reversals is much less than the gap ups. So in this case, taken together, we don't have a bearish picture, we still have a bullish picture because the strength in absolute number is much more bullish than the reversals in absolute number. That is also reflected in the all signals percentage. It is not hugely bullish, but it is more bullish than bearish for the week. That is interesting, isn't it? Though when you look at the market ETFs, price dropped across the board, across all the 4 market ETFs. Not much, but it dropped, whereas the technical breadth is showing that it is bullish. That is an important piece of information. The technical breadth, we finally take trades based on technicals to make profit. We buy a stock, we make profit only if it goes up. Therefore, technicals are important for trading profitability. And we see technically it is bullish, though market ETFs came down. Is there significant percentage of bearish headwind in the weekly interval? Why I ask that question is looking at the reversals being more bearish. I want to know, is there a bearish sign from the weekly headwinds? No, it is below the threshold of 1%, so we don't see the headwinds leading to a market turning down. What about the daily interval? Daily, I expect the technical breadth to be bearish, and that is true across all the categories. We'll have to see if that is a deep in an uptrend or not. How we can do that? We could try to look for some bullish trades and try to look for some bearish trades. If it is easier to find bullish trades that are ready or about to be ready, then we will be even more confident to take trades in the long direction next week, provided we have proper trade setup and market breaks out of the consolidating range, than taking bearish trades. I'll do that exercise shortly, but before that, let me have a look at some of the stocks that I shared last week as possible buying ideas. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to know my market view, where I am putting my money, bullish side or bearish side, all you have to do is look at the ideas I share on my website, on my Twitter page, and also if you have access to the Graduates Club live chat, I share my ideas there also. Last couple of days, I think more than a week or so, all my trading ideas had been in the bullish side. So you know that I am bullish on the market for 1 week already. Prior to that, I was not sharing any ideas. That also showed that I was waiting for low risk buying opportunities, and now I have decided to take long trades. I had shared some of them, some of the ideas. Let's look at some of them. On Friday, I shared a buy setup in a stock ZIM, ZIM. This I shared just, I think I shared 2:35 p.m. Okay, not at market close, 2:35 p.m. So let's look at the chart as of market close. But before looking at the chart, let's look at what I shared in terms of fundamentals. The stock ZIM, that is ZIM Integrated Shipping Services, is undervalued with high earnings growth as well as high revenue growth. So when we combine together earnings growth, revenue growth, undervalued, we call it Q Diamond Fundamentals. On top of that, it has a short squeeze potential. Funds are accumulating. If you want to put weightage on the fact that analysts are bullish, you may do that. I don't put much weightage on that. I do look at the fund accumulation part. When I shared it, it had confirmed, not confirmed, it had displayed the bullish flow setup, trend following long setup I mentioned in the tweet and then the associated forum post, that you may see if the long setup is confirmed by the close. And using pivot chart, intraday chart, I had already taken a long trade. I also showed, highlighted that in itself 68% of peer stocks of ZIM, marine industry, were up. So in itself the industry was up, and that was on a weak market day. I further showed the industry scorecard. It was one of the strongest industries. We have total 148 industries, and as of the time I shared the snapshot around 2:30 p.m. all using live analysis, it was one of the top 20% in strength and also one of the top 20% in terms of acceleration. And though the market was bearish, as of that time the industry was actually up. You could see that from the industry percentage change in real time. So the industry was allowing me to buy, fundamentals were great, and it displayed a flow trade setup as of that time. Let's see how the stock closed. ZIM backdrop is bullish. Daily is in an uptrend with higher high, higher low, has a trend line support. price dipped right to the trend line support and went up, and right on Friday it displayed bullish flow. You can see that from the new visual tick. And did it confirm a flow trade setup? Yes, because we can see that from the flow setup band indicator. You could find it in real time using Q Finder either on Metastock or on TradeStation. Let's drop Zimmerman, sorry, Zim integrated shipping, not Zimmerman, Zim integrated shipping on Q Finder using TradeStation here, and Q Finder would have alerted you of a flow trend following long setup in real time on Friday. That's what I did, and I took a long trade. I booked partial profit. Why I booked partial profit is because I took a bigger size than my usual swing trading size. Why did I do that? I intentionally, in my mind, took it as a day trade plus a swing trade. The day trade I wanted to book profit during the day if I had profit, and the swing trade I wanted to hold overnight if the trade setup was confirmed at the close. It did confirm at the close, so I am holding the usual size for swing trade, and the extra size that I took as day trade, I have booked profit in that. If you look at the pivot chart, the intraday chart, and for the morning session, I like to use 5-minute interval. Let's switch to 5-minute interval. That Zimmerman was a strong fundamental stock. You would know of that beforehand because we have a list of liquid stocks. Not Zimmerman, sorry, Zim. We have a list of liquid stocks. Zim is already in that, and we look at those stocks regularly. We could look at them in real time also using fundamental first workflow using Cube Vital. On Friday, though the market was turning down, right after the open, it created the early range high, early range low, and it broke to the upside. You could take a long trade right at that point, putting stop for the day below early range low. That was never touched, the stop was never even approached. Near the close of the day, you had significant profit. That is how I traded Zim, and I booked profit on the portion that I traded as a day trade, and I am holding the portion that I traded as swing trade. So I combined day trading and swing trading both in this trade. That was an idea I shared on Friday. The stock is looking quite bullish. Now let's go to the website sagarnandi.com. I share live trading ideas always before knowing the result. Under this category, 360 degrees trading ideas. Let's look at some of the latest ideas. Let's look at, no pick and choose, Zim I already looked at. Then let's look at the next two stocks that I shared. The past high flying stock, that was about apps. When did I share it? I shared it 2 days ago. As of that time, you can see I again carried out the 360 degrees analysis in real time. This is about midday on 2nd June. I am sharing. The industry application software was one of the top 20% strongest industries, and it was also one of the top 20% most accelerating industries. The industry was up by a big percentage. So industry was telling me to look for buy setups in individual stocks, and I noticed apps was up by more than 10% as of that time. Undervalued stock, solid earnings quality, short squeeze potential, earnings growth is high, revenue growth is high. So taken together, valuation, earnings growth, revenue growth, it was a diamond bullish candidate in terms of fundamentals, and we had short squeeze potential in itself. 97% of peer stocks went up. So not only the relative score of the industry was strong among the top 20% of industries, in itself also the industry was very strong. And then I looked at the stock. This was the snapshot I shared, and I highlighted the bullish headwind in weekly and daily, the watermark in daily, the sharp drop one day earlier, that was due to earnings result. And then I mentioned in the website post, you may read the detailed post, I mentioned that you may look for a proper bullish setup, because the daily candle and the weekly candle as of that time were still in red color. So using this daily, weekly, what we call at a glance template, and our standard Q trade setups, we did not have any valid Q trade setup using daily interval. But I kept an eye on this stock and I took a trade using intraday pivot chart. Let's look at the pivot chart, APPS. I shared my post on Wednesday. Sorry, I shared my post on, let's see the chart again. Let's see the post. It had an up day after the gap down move. So that would be Thursday. So I shared my post on Thursday. Thursday price went up. I shared the post around midday when price was around this area. So in fact, I took a long trade in the stock using intraday time frame somewhere here using the dip. I am holding that swing trade long position. I use the intraday chart. It has dipped a little bit since my entry, but I am holding on to the trade. And then on Friday, I took another trade. Thursday's long position in apps that I took as a swing trade was using stocks. And on Friday, it came down again along with the market, but I was still bullish in the stock. It didn't drop enough for me to turn bearish, and I shorted the put somewhere in this area. It came down rapidly and stopped falling down, and I have another layout where I look at a stock using daily 30-minute, 5-minute, and also 5-minute stop loss chart. So I looked at the stock somewhere in this area and I shorted the put, naked put. It's not a high price stock. At that time it was around $20. So it's possible for me to short the put, naked put, thinking that if the stock goes down, I'll be ready to buy the stock at a lower price. So I shorted the put. Which strike did I use? Actually, I did not use 20 strike. I was bullish in the stock enough to use the next strike that is higher than the price at that time. So I chose the 20.5 strike. I shorted 20.5 strike, and as you can see, it went up little bit, pulled back, created a higher low that created a trend line support, and near the close it rallied. That is different from what the market did, isn't it? The market did not rally in the close, but apps rallied in the close and closed well above 20.5, my short strike. So I already have some profit in the short put trade I have some small loss in the long stock trade. I have already placed a GTC order to book profit on the short put at 50% of max profit. However, because it closed above my short strike, I'll keep an eye on it, and if it is very quickly reaching that 50% of max profit, I may remove that and replace that with 80% of max profit GTC order. I'll keep an eye on it, but as of now, I have already placed a profit booking order on the short put position at 50% of max profit. That is how I traded the stock that I shared before knowing the result. As you can see, always I share ideas before knowing the result. Lastly, let's look at one more stock here that I shared, and then I look at some stocks that I didn't share yet. This was on SGH, and thanks to one of the Q traders, he mentioned about Qualcomm in our Graduates Club live chat. I looked at Qualcomm and I looked at its peer stocks, and SGH looked more promising to me. And this was the snapshots I shared. And you see, this is again using live charts as of around 10 a.m. 3 days ago. At that time, the industry, semiconductors, was one of the top 20% industries. It was up as an industry that allowed me to buy, and I was looking for strong fundamental stocks. So this was undervalued once again with high earnings growth as well as revenue growth. So it was a diamond fundamentals candidate for me with robust earnings quality. And not only the earnings growth was high, it was high steadily. In itself, the industry was strong also. And I looked at the stock chart. The weekly was bullish. The backdrop turned bullish after a long time. After this long downtrend in the weekly chart, here we had backdrop turning bullish for the first time. In the daily, you can see that lower high, lower low turning into higher high, higher low. It gapped up here and it was consolidating for 3 days, and I mentioned that if it breaks out of the range, you could take a long trade. Few other things to note is that the stock had hit jump thrust low, that is extremely oversold condition, and after that when it gapped up on this day, it had big move up 3, very strong bullish momentum, and at that time price was also extended to the downside shown by the band indicator at extreme low price level. So extreme price low level with severe downward downward extension with intensity also, and immediately following that downward bearish intensity was very strong bullish intensity. In my observation, when we have this big move 3 up at jump thrust low, price extreme low, almost always it leads to a bullish move afterwards, and we have seen that after this big move up 3 day, it has actually gone up. It gapped up here, then it was consolidating. If it broke out of the range, you could buy it again. And if you are using the HSA like signals, you see that here when it was still inside a range, in fact inside a squeeze, it displayed Mobo breakout from a squeeze with a kahuna bullish momentum when it was still inside the squeeze. So you could use the HSA like or momentum signals to take a long trade here as well. Anyway, I shared it in this area. Fundamentals were strong, the industry was strong, and I actually took a long trade in SGH as of that time. How is SGH today? Let's have a look. It is still consolidating in the sideways range. On Thursday, it broke out somewhat of the range, but on Friday, it pulled back. You can see Thursday we have the tick symbol, so we had a bullish flow. Friday it pulled back, but we have a trend line support nearby. Unless that trend line support is broken, I am not going to turn bearish on the stock. So I am holding a position in the stock. Those are the few stocks that I shared already in my forum. I explained the rationale behind them and also how I traded them. Now let's look at some other stocks. Boeing. I tweeted about Boeing recently. I don't remember the date. I'll not go to the Twitter page to look it up, but you can see some patterns here. Boeing dropped heavily. It hit jump thrust low at price extreme low. Then it displayed the big move up 3 on this day. That was also a bull release day. And again, once we have jump thrust low, price extreme low, then a big move up 3 almost always, that leads to the stock moving up. It indeed did so. Boeing created a false downside breakout, shaking out weak hands, and then it rallied for several days. When was the optimal buy point? On the bullish headwind day, we wouldn't buy because the candle didn't have a bullish shape. You could look to buy on this day when we had the bull release and it regained the watermark support. Looking at the daily, it gave a box long trade setup on that day. I'm not sure how the weekly color was at that time. If the weekly color was yellow, then this day confirmed a box, that is double bottom long trade setup. You could buy on that day. If the weekly did not confirm the long trade setup, box long trade setup, then when could we buy next? As I have mentioned many times, after we have bullish headwind, the first bullish flow day, not flow trade setup, but flow color day, is usually more often than not a low risk buying opportunity. So you could buy on this day using that principle. It's not a flow trade setup. You can see there was no flow trade setup in the band, but after bullish headwind, first flow color as shown by that visual tick now could be your low risk buying opportunity. After that, price has gone up, and notice one thing: Thursday it had a solid gain. Friday, though market dropped relative to the open, price actually went up, and after this big move up 3 at price at jump thrust low, price extreme low, we had another big move up 3 on Thursday. Friday price closed slightly lower but higher than opening price and didn't approach the middle of Thursday's long bullish candle. So I am continuing to remain bullish on Boeing. I have a stock long position in Boeing. Now I didn't share it in detail on the website. I did tweet about it, but I didn't share on the website because its fundamentals are not as strong as I would like to have. If you notice, I share ideas on the forum or my website only when I have a proper 360 degrees trades. Proper 360 degrees trade meaning industry is strong, fundamentals are great, and technically I have a low risk buy setup. For Boeing, I didn't like the fundamentals, so I didn't want to share it on my website, but I did tweet about it and I did take a long trade. I did that trade using intraday pivot chart. I am holding the long position with a small profit as of Friday's close. Now I'm going to look at two more stocks. One is AMN. I shared it, I think, in the previous YouTube webinar or on my website or Twitter somewhere. Let's look at its fundamentals, and I'm going to use the live system for it. I don't know exactly where I shared it earlier. Not going to spend time looking for it. Let's look at the fundamentals of AMN using Q Vital. Undervalued stock with high earnings growth, high revenue growth. Therefore, we have once again a diamond, fundamentally strong stock, great earnings quality, funds are accumulating. Friday, many stock pairs were down, but that's fine. I didn't share it on Friday. I shared it earlier, and at that time, the industry was relatively strong. So, great fundamental, strong industry when I shared it. And now, if I go back to the stock, you don't see any weakness in the stock at all. The weekly is clearly bullish in shape, in color. Daily is clearly bullish in shape and color. All the candles are bullish for several days. Relative performance sharply going up. I took a long trade in AMN when I shared the idea. I am continuing to hold that long position with a sizable profit as of Friday's close. And I'm going to share one last stock. We are approaching 1 hour point. That is Crocs. And you will find a pattern here that is something similar to what you could see in Boeing. Different industries, different sectors, of course, but like Boeing, Crocs, consumer discretionary sector, footwear industry, dropped sharply, displayed the bullish headwind in weekly. That candle shape was bullish. This week's candle shape is also bullish. This week also has a bull release signal. In the daily, it displayed a bullish headwind. Soon after that, it completed the false downside breakout, and here we have a bullish flow candle. Not a flow trade setup because we don't have the dot on the band, but we have this tick new visual now. So this was the bullish flow day, first bullish flow day after a bullish headwind in a stock that already hit jump thrust low at price extreme low, is a low risk buying day. So you could buy on this day itself. After that, it has continued to go up. If you look at the weekly daily, when I remove the markers, is there any bearishness in the last couple of candles or the last two weekly candles? No. And though Friday was a weak day in the market, Friday's candle color and shape both, I will say, are bullish rather than being bearish. So I took a long trade in Crocs based on this analysis, and I am holding that with a small profit. Let's look at Crocs fundamentals, and you will see a pattern, the same pattern that you see every time in all the trades I share on my website, how I choose the stocks. Fundamentally strong in strong industries with a low risk buy point. See Crocs fundamentals. Undervalued stock, high earnings growth, high revenue growth. Again, a diamond fundamental stock. Because the market was down a lot, I am not looking for only earnings growth or only undervalued. I am combining all the dimensions in terms of critical fundamental analysis, looking for undervalued stock with earnings growth, with revenue growth. On top of that, I am also getting sometimes a short squeeze potential, high earnings quality, funds are accumulating. Here even insiders are bullish. So Crocs has almost everything going for it. Friday was a weak day in the market, but relatively speaking, this industry was stronger, footwear industry. If I see the relative score of the industry on Friday, it is actually strong. It was very weak earlier, footwear industry, seen from the scorecard color. It has improved rapidly. I took a long position in one of these days, not on Friday, one of these days when the industry was among the strongest. You can see we have 148 industries, and over 2-day period and also 5-day period, it is the best performing industry. So I took a long position in Crocs at that time. You can see the pattern, how I am choosing the best of the best stocks in the current market situation, and then best stocks not only in terms of fundamentals in strong industries, mostly these are turnaround candidates. That is what you will find in this market more than trend following candidates, and they have low risk buy point. My market view is bullish. Again, you can see that from the stocks I am trading, all the recent ideas I shared are in the long direction. I am happy to change them if the market drops, and I'll get stopped out of the swing trades. Until then, I am remaining bullish. We are at almost 1 hour point. Let's end today's session here. Thanks a lot for joining. I look forward to seeing you in my next public session, which will be during next weekend. Market recap again. Have a great weekend. As these live examples show, there is no reason not to trade profitably. See you again, and thank you.